Before the United States existed, before the idea of a nation of opportunity had a name, a boy stood barefoot on a Caribbean shore, waves kissing the sand like fate whispering to a child who had no idea what he would become. His clothes were simple, his future uncertain, his last name almost meaningless in the eyes of the world. No wealth, no title, no legitimacy, as society cruelly labeled him. Just a mind sharper than hunger, and a fire quiet enough to hide, but impossible to extinguish. Alexander Hamilton was born on the island of Nevis, where sugarcane rustled in the wind, and ships moved like giants across the horizon. The world he entered did not promise fairness. It promised survival, if he was lucky. His mother, Rachel, was once a woman of status and grace, but the rigid laws of society turned her into an outcast. Her first marriage unraveled, yet laws refused her freedom. Her love for James Hamilton, the man who became father to Alexander and his brother, was real but not recognized. A child born of love but not law. That was Alexander's first inheritance. He never saw legitimacy or luxury as a child. His earliest memories held the scent of salt air, the sounds of markets filled with voices of merchants, freedmen, enslaved men, refugees from lands far away. His mother struggled to hold their small household together. His father, charming but unreliable, disappeared when Alexander was still young. Poverty replaced hope, but hunger sharpened ambition like a blade. Alexander did not merely learn to survive, he learned to observe, to think, to dream. Then grief struck without mercy. His mother fell ill, her breath weakening, her strength fading like a candle in wind. Alexander sat beside her bed, helpless, tiny hands clenched, eyes burning, not with tears, but with a feeling he couldn't yet name. One morning, her body went still. She was gone. There was no inheritance, no security, only silence and a child who suddenly felt the weight of the world press down on his thin shoulders. He was orphaned before he truly became a boy. Even death refused to leave him alone. A cousin who took him in soon died as well. Now Alexander faced life alone, without privilege, without a guiding hand, but not without will. While many children broke under similar burdens, Hamilton hardened into focus. Sorrow taught him urgency. Poverty taught him discipline. Loss taught him that waiting for fortune was foolish. One must seize life or watch life seize everything first. He found work in a trading company on St. Croix. Days began before the sun. He learned to calculate cargo weights, track shipments of sugar and rum, manage accounts for powerful merchants. He watched as ships came and went, carrying goods, wealth, and dreams across oceans. While ink stained his fingers, knowledge flooded his mind. He saw how the world worked, not through imagination, but through numbers, commerce, ambition. He was still a child, yet businessmen trusted him to run operations in their absence, not out of kindness, but necessity. He earned trust by proving he needed no charity. And yet, his childhood never truly existed. He skipped laughter for ledgers, games for grain counts, play for planning. It was there, in those harsh days, that he learned the meaning of power, not brute force, but economic force. A world ran not on kings alone, but on credit, trade, risk, mathematics, decision. While other boys dreamed under palm trees, Hamilton built dreams as sharp as steel. Dreams that reached beyond islands and oceans. Then came the night the sky roared. A hurricane descended with fury, tearing roofs apart, sending waves crashing over streets, whipping palm trees into broken arrows. People screamed, buildings fell, lives shattered. In the chaos, young Alexander did not merely witness destruction, he captured it. He wrote of wind and terror and human fragility with the voice of a poet and the precision of a scholar far beyond his age. His words traveled quickly across the island. Elders read them and saw not a boy, but a mind destined to shape more than a merchant ledger. They gathered funds, a rare act, to send him away. To a place where your talent may grow, they said. It was not mercy, it was investment. So the boy boarded a ship. He left behind graves, sorrow, storms, and a childhood buried in hardship. The salty wind on his face as the ship lifted anchors felt like rebirth. Ahead lay New York, a city restless with ideas, tension, and whispers of revolution. A place where men argued not about crops but about freedom. A place where Alexander Hamilton was not an orphaned island clerk. He was potential. At King's College, now Columbia University, young Hamilton devoured books like starving men devour food. History, law, economics, philosophy. He studied not because anyone demanded it, but because the world demanded understanding. He trained his mind like soldiers trained for war. He listened, debated, spoke with conviction. He wrote so fiercely that whispers began. Who is this young scholar? How can someone so young command language like a general commands an army? When the colony's tensions with Britain turned to open outrage, Hamilton did not wait for permission. He joined the chorus of rebellion, not from emotion, but reason. He believed tyranny was poison to the human spirit, that opportunity was a right, not a gift from aristocrats. His pamphlets criticized British policy with eloquence that stunned leaders. Many thought a seasoned statesman had authored them. When they discovered the writer was a teenager, they realized America had found a warrior of words. But Hamilton was not content to fight from a desk. He joined a militia. He trained before dawn, musket heavy in his hands, sweat running down his face, determination etched in every movement. He drilled with men stronger, but not hungrier than him. Combat was not where his genius lay, but his courage made up the difference. He fought in early battles, showing discipline, bravery, and sharp judgment. Fate watched, and soon so did the man shaping the destiny of a nation, General George Washington. Washington noticed Hamilton's intellect, his diligence, his ability to turn chaos into clarity. He brought Hamilton into his inner circle as an aide-de-camp, effectively the general's right-hand mind. Hamilton drafted orders, wrote strategy letters, and absorbed leadership from the greatest commander of the age. He became Washington's voice on paper, his logic sharpened by real-time war. Yet ambition beats louder than comfort. Hamilton did not want to remain behind a desk, even a powerful desk. He begged to return to the battlefield. He longed for honor, for proof that intellect could stand alongside courage. He finally got his chance during the siege of Yorktown. Night cloaked the landscape, silence held breath, then assault. Hamilton led a charge against British defenses, scaling walls, driving forward with fearless precision. In moments of chaos, he rose. Victory followed. The British surrendered soon after. America breathed freedom. Now came the war after the war to build a nation from dust and ideal. Congress was weak, states quarreled, debt smothered early hope. Many feared the newborn republic would crumble. Then Hamilton stepped forward. As first Secretary of the Treasury, he envisioned a country not as a scattered collection of farms, but as a unified engine of ambition. He built banking systems, public credit, financial stability. He argued for a national bank not to serve the wealthy, but to strengthen the nation. He saw industry as the future, trade as power, unity as survival. He fought against corruption of simplicity, the false dream that government should do nothing. He believed power must be built, not feared. But not everyone agreed. Thomas Jefferson, elegant, philosophical, rooted in land and agricultural ideals, opposed Hamilton fiercely. Jefferson feared power concentrated in institutions. Hamilton feared weakness scattered in decision. Their clash birthed America's first political parties, not by design, but by collision of vision. Yet Hamilton's brilliance carried shadows. His pride, bold as his mind, made him enemies. His honesty, sometimes brutal, cost him allies. His ambition painted targets on his back. He made mistakes, and one would haunt him forever. His affair with Maria Reynolds led to blackmail. Instead of hiding, he confessed publicly, a scandal that shook his reputation. The man who built financial trust destroyed personal trust in one printed admission. Still, he pressed onward. His pen never dulled, his ideas never faded, his commitment never wavered. Politics hardened around him, praise and hatred forming equal storms. And standing among his rivals, one man simmered with resentment: Aaron Burr. Brilliant, charismatic, but directionless in belief. Where Hamilton stood on principle, Burr shifted like the wind. Where Hamilton valued conviction, Burr valued opportunity. Their paths crossed like flint and steel, sparks inevitable. Years rolled, elections passed, insults whispered into letters, pride sharpened into hatred. And finally, destiny called them to a quiet place on the Hudson River shore. Pistols ready, silence heavy, breath tight. A duel that legacy would remember. Yet time, like an indifferent tide, kept moving forward, pulling Alexander Hamilton with it. He had risen from the edge of obscurity to the heart of a revolution, from island orphan to architect of a nation. His writings had shaped battles, his policies shaped economies, his arguments shaped government. But every life, no matter how bright, walks alongside its shadow. For Hamilton, that shadow was pride, and fate was patient. After the war, the capital of ideas became the battlefield. The halls of early American government echoed not with muskets, but with fierce voices clashing over the nation's future. Jefferson saw farmers in quiet fields. Hamilton saw factories and ships and trade routes stretching across oceans. Jefferson's America was simple, slow, pure. Hamilton's was noisy, bold, unafraid. And history would prove that the future belonged not to stillness, but to movement. His influence stretched far beyond Treasury ledgers. He defended the Constitution, helping write the Federalist Papers, a series of essays explaining why a strong national government was not a threat, but a shield. In candlelit nights filled with ink and urgency, he wrote with a mind racing ahead of his time. His arguments were not for popularity, but for strength. He believed chaos was the enemy of liberty. Only unity could safeguard freedom. He did not merely want America to exist, he wanted America to endure. But while he built systems, he could not always contain his own storms. His temper was sharp, his honesty a sword without sheath. He called things as he saw them, regardless of who stood in the line of his truth. Some admired this courage. Others waited, quietly sharpening revenge. Hamilton never learned to bow his head, and history rarely forgives men who refuse to bend. When George Washington stepped away from power, Hamilton's influence began to slip. Enemies gathered like wolves smelling injury. His scandal, the Reynolds affair, became their weapon. To protect his public integrity, he sacrificed his private pride. He published details of his infidelity in a pamphlet so brutally honest that even his allies gasped. He chose truth over silence, honor over image, but the cost was devastating. His enemies cheered. His wife, Eliza, felt wounds that time could never fully erase. Still he worked. Still he dreamed. Still he believed. He wrote about the military, about banks, about industries yet unborn. He warned that American weakness would invite future chaos. He urged leaders to prepare, to organize, to look beyond farms into factories, beyond borders into a world powered by commerce and steel. But the nation, young, stubborn, proud, did not always listen. Then politics turned deadly. Elections were not yet calm contests of ideas. They were wars of personality and ambition. Aaron Burr, smooth in speech and hungry for power, found himself thwarted more than once by Hamilton's influence. Hamilton did not merely oppose Burr, he distrusted him. Where Hamilton had fierce belief, Burr had careful neutrality. Where Hamilton risked reputation for principle, Burr protected himself with silence. Hamilton saw in Burr not a rival, but a danger, a man who wanted power without purpose. Their rivalry festered. Words became wounds. Letters became weapons. Burr, finally humiliated in politics and furious at Hamilton's refusal to praise him, demanded satisfaction. The code of honor of the time. A duel. A meeting at dawn. Pistol against pistol. Legacy against legacy. And so the morning came. July 11th, 1804. The sky pale with the first breath of light. The river quiet like a held breath. The grass damp with dew. Hamilton arrived with composure, though his heart must have felt the weight of everything he had built and everything he could still lose. Burr arrived with purpose, eyes set like steel. The men stood face to face, surrounded by seconds, doctors, witnesses who knew history stood among them disguised as silence. Hamilton raised his pistol. Some say he intended not to shoot Burr. Some say he fired upward deliberately. Some say he hesitated, torn between pride and conscience. History debates, but the moment does not change. A crack split the stillness. A bullet tore from Burr's pistol, cutting through the morning air into Hamilton's body. Pain exploded, breath crumbled, strength collapsed. He fell. Time slowed as men rushed forward. The world blurred, voices distant, sky spinning, heartbeat fading. They placed him in a boat to carry him back across the river. The oars struck water with rhythmic sorrow. Hamilton lay in agony. Not defiant now, not fiery, but human and fragile. Hours passed. He was taken to a friend's home, where Eliza arrived, her heart shattering. She held his hand. She prayed. She watched the man she loved, flawed, brilliant, determined, fade like a final note in a symphony. He whispered to his children. He told them to follow their mother's example, to cherish virtue, to remember him not for his errors but his efforts. Eliza leaned close as the breath of the man she had shared the world with slipped away. Alexander Hamilton died at 47, far too young for a mind still burning with ideas. The city mourned. Men who argued with him wept. Soldiers remembered his courage. Scholars remembered his intellect. Citizens remembered his passion for the country that now mourned him. Burr left on, but his reputation withered. The duel that ended Hamilton's life killed Burr's honor. Eliza, strong as steel beneath grace, refused to let the world forget her husband. For 50 years she fought, collected letters, preserved records, raised funds for memorials. She founded New York's first orphanage, giving children the chance her husband had once needed. She whispered his legacy into the future, determined that history would not erase him. And history listened. America grew into the nation Hamilton imagined, driven by finance, industry, immigration, ambition. His financial systems became pillars. His essays became lessons. His warnings echoed in halls of power. His life, once overshadowed by scandal and tragedy, rose again. Time, that old judge, restored his honor. 2 centuries later, lights turned on in a Broadway theater. Music rose. Voices rapped history. And suddenly, the world discovered him anew. The immigrant orphan who wrote his way into a revolution, who built systems from nothing, who rose on hunger and intellect, who made mistakes, who loved deeply, who fought fiercely, who believed in a future no one else could yet see. Audiences cheered. Students read. Scholars re-examined. The world remembered. He had always been there, in the banks, in the Constitution, in the arguments that built a government, in the ambition of a nation that refused to stay small. Now he lived again, in rhyme and rhythm, in classrooms and conversations, in hearts that saw in his struggle the story of perseverance beyond pain. Alexander Hamilton's life was not defined by birth, but by rise, not by title, but by effort, not by perfection, but by relentless pursuit. He was proof that destiny does not choose, it must be seized. That greatness is not inherited, it is built. That a life can begin in shadows and still reach the light. A boy with nothing became a man who shaped everything. His pen fought wars. His ideas built systems. His passion built a nation. His flaws made him human. His will made him immortal. And in the long arc of history, he remains what he always was, a force of creation, a voice unafraid, a mind unbowed, the orphan who refused to stay forgotten, the immigrant who defined a nation of immigrants, the thinker who engineered a future others feared, the fighter who fell but never faded. Alexander Hamilton lived not just in a time of revolution. He was a revolution. And he still is.